Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Sin Permiso, a Latina lifestyle podcast. Welcome everyone to another episode of Sin Permiso, a Latina lifestyle podcast. And we are on site here at Washington, D.C. I'm with Edwin Acevedo, who is the broker owner of Century 21 Lotus in Los Angeles, California. And not only that, he is the incoming president of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals for 2026. Welcome, Edwin.
Thank you for having me, Peggy. I appreciate the invitation. Definitely a pleasure.
So we met a few months ago and the light bulb went off. And not only did the light bulb go off, but like my heart kind of twinged when I heard your story because I didn't know a lot of things. We don't know a lot about each other until we get together and share and talk about it. And not only are you an entrepreneur, you also have a background in engineering,
right?
And I think that's pretty cool because you usually don't align
Correct.
an engineer with a super sociable salesperson.
Right.
So it's incredible that you have these skill sets. I want you to tell us a little bit about your story because I love to highlight successful Latinos who started from the bottom, now they're here, and a little bit about growing up and how maybe you had a little bit of tough time in LA. Let's talk about that.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack, right? I think one of the biggest things growing up in Linwood, California, which happens to be right next to Compton, right? A lot of people know about Compton. I have to point that out because you say Compton, we know that nationwide because of NWA, what have you,
yep.
right? So that's growing up in those neighborhoods obviously gives you a plethora of different types of visions and things you see, right?
And
bad
characters.
and good. and so for me, growing up, you see having both my parents work very hard. My mom, obviously, cleaning, cleaning homes in very expensive neighborhoods. Coming back home, we're like an hour ride from there, and then my dad working every day. One of the things I like to share is that, one thing I learned about my dad is that although he liked to, drink a lot and party a lot, whatever it is back then.
That's a Latino thing.
It's a Latino thing across the board, no matter what, right? My bedroom used to be right next to the bathroom. You used to hear him brushing his teeth at 4:30 in the morning, no matter what he does the night before, right?
Así con cruda, sin cruda.
Todo, I mean, no matter, it really showed the discipline. It showed that, you can have fun, but no matter what, you got to get to work and show that structure. And that was showing me early on, right, as a young boy that, responsibility was key. And you're being programmed without even knowing that, right? You just hear that brush of the teeth, 4:30 in the morning, doesn't fail, Monday to Friday. And that was something that was impacting me every day. So honestly, for me, growing up is seeing the opportunities out in my life. One of the things I like to share is that as a kid, I was maybe 12 years old. I was riding my bike, and right across the street, finally, after this home being a trap house for many, many years, an investor bought the house, right? But I didn't know anything about that. Finally, I started seeing the house being painted, windows being replaced, and I'm there with my bike, and I asked the workers that happened to be on top of the roof, I asked them, hey, what's going on here? Like, oh yeah, an investor bought it. My boss bought it. Oh really? Yeah, he bought it for $65,000. Again, 12 years old, $65,000 is a lot of money. And he's gonna sell it for $125,000. I'm like, wow, he's gonna make around $30,000. Now, this man didn't need to tell me this, but it really showed me the opportunities there was in real estate at that early age. At 12 years old, they were rolling on my bike in the driveway. And so that was the very first thought I had about real estate, right? And so continuing on through my neighborhood, through my childhood.
Was it tough growing up over there?
It was tough. I mean, look, I was profiled several times. I was, back then, bald was the thing to be back then, and although I wasn't a gangster, I had that look, and so I had a nice car in Linwood, and that car did not mix, with the sheriff in town. So, of course, being pulled over and being blatantly told, I'm not pulling you over because you did something wrong. I'm pulling you over because I want to make sure this is your car. And they didn't care, right? And I'll let you go as long as you don't have guns, drugs, anything like that. You're ready, free to go. Because over here, we don't give no citation tickets. We don't get no traffic tickets here. So, go get with the program. And they were that blatant. They were that straightforward. They didn't care about being complained about. That's it, And so.
Did you deal with racism inside of the community within being Hispanic and Latinos, because there's a lot of like gang wars, and if you're from this gang or you're from this or that.
Oh yeah, I mean, before the sheriff came into town, there's police department, and they weren't really doing a good job about taking care of gangs. So I mean, going outside without being harassed, it wasn't coming around as much. And I think that's the thing that I remember was having to deal with that, having the fear of like, am I going to get targeted? Am I going to get jumped, right? And all that other things that we had to go through as a kid, was real, right? Looking out my window or hearing gunshots, and then obviously coming out after the gunshots and seeing the trail of blood going across the alley and understanding that this person just died maybe the next block over as he was trying to survive is something that really was real to me, myself, being shot at.
Yeah.
Right, but after going through a fight with a gang member, I mean that was something that was real. I never really shared. This is the first time sharing this right now, and that's something key that was for me to go through. So I had a plethora of different experiences. Having that type of experience on one end, and then the education on the other end.
How'd you get in? How'd you get out? How'd you get educated? How'd you become an engineer?
Well, here's the thing. I was very competitive in high school. And one of the things that one of my colleagues, one of my friends back then in ninth grade told me, hey, you can't get grades like myself. I got all A's. And I'm like, I could. I just don't feel like getting it. I don't think it's important. But he called me out. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'll do it. So I got all A's all in high school.
That's the guy that basically te retó. He said, let's see, show me what you can do. That's when you wanted to show that you could do it.
Right. And I think that's the thing, that the competitiveness came out. And without even knowing, understanding what I was doing, for the next 4 years, that was going to set me up for the opportunities to come after my graduation, was something that was very special to me because, you don't realize the things that you have within you until someone turns it on, right? Ignites you. And you need people like that in your life.
To set you on fire.
And you don't ever know who they are.
Yes, and
right?
when they're going to come.
Right. And so now here I am, 4.19 GPA student. And, colleges were coming around saying, hey, come over here, come over here, come over here. And, giving all these opportunities. And there I was being told, become an engineer because I was so great in math.
Math, yeah.
Calculus 2, AP, all the physics 2, everything was easy for me, right? And so for me...
Wish I could have said the same.
And so knowing that, the teachers, counselors telling me, hey, become an engineer. So of course, there I was. Being focused on that.
What I think is crazy that you were an engineer and you decide to leave your engineering job right before the crash.
Oh, yeah,
who does that? And then you try to go back and say, wait a minute, I want my job back.
Yeah.
I was just kidding.
Right. You remember that. I love that. Yes, it was a decision, right? Quitting my job after 10 years. I worked for Boeing for 10 years.
Not just anybody, Boeing.
Boeing, yeah. It was, and back then in the hood, that was a big deal. Like, oh my God, you work for Boeing?
That's a big deal today.
Yeah, and so making that type of money, I think I ended up, when I quit, I was making $95,000 a year. Even then, that was almost 18 years ago. It was good money, and people were saying, you're crazy. What are you thinking about? That's just salary, the benefits, paying for USC, all of that was happening. And there I was quitting my job because I saw a bigger opportunity in real estate, because I was able to understand that I can create a future for myself, and having no cap and no limit was key, right? And I was that person. I felt like a lion in a cage, roaming back and forth at Boeing. Good money, good opportunity, but
you knew there was more.
There was more. There was more real estate. But then again, the market crashes 3 weeks later. And I was like, OMG, what did I just do?
So how do you go on from there? The market's crashed. You're in real estate.
Right.
What do you do?
So here we are talking about all the good things that we talked about, right? But here's the storm. I think we all need a storm in our lives because that makes us better, makes us more resilient, makes us much more wiser, much more tougher. And we needed that, 10 years of success, 10 years of having a great job. At some point, you need to be hitting the mouth.
10 years of coasting.
Yeah. You think about that, and there I was, boom, no experience in real estate, market just crashed. What am I going to do? My 401k is, I ran out of money, $80,000. That's gone. I was gone. Money's being deflated. So here I was for the first time ever having no money, right? What I was going to do, I was being challenged for the first time. Of course, I was too prideful to ask for money. Of course, people would let me borrow money here and there. my parents knew, get a job, mijo, get a job. I don't know what you're doing this real estate thing that no, they give you money. Yeah, mijo, no haces dinero. Yo no veo nada de cheque. I don't trabajo de verdad. You know, basically being told, then walking into my garage, because I was living in the garage at that point, you know, get a real job. What's going on? You know, I don't see anything. And of course, being pressured by my family, of course, my mom and dad didn't know any better other than working 9 to 5. So that's what they knew. They knew the comfort level
that's
of that.
safe.
Right? That's
Yep.
the safe zone. Mijo, get a job, get money. We're tired of seeing you, you know, with no money. The thing is that I challenged through that. And looking back, you can only see it once you pass through it, the storm. And you look back at the storm and say, wow, I was going through a depression. Because
Yes.
my drinking levels went from like moderate to like almost every weekend, where to the point where I would just wanted to forget how broke I was.
They say in real estate, the majority, a high percentage of realtors are, alcoholics or drink
Right.
more than they should because of the stress levels.
Very prevalent in
the
this
industry.
Definitely. And so I had to overcome that. And the thing that helped me was, you know, I had a blessing. I had a 2-year-old daughter at the moment. And, you know, one of the things that made me understand is that, you know, I need to do something for myself. I can't, you know, get into this whole thing in my life where my daughter's growing up understanding that here's her dad still living in the back of a garage of my parents' house, and being irresponsible like that.
So she was a motivator for you.
She was a motivator, and it helped me too because I used to take her to a Head Start program, and they had a policy that if she was late 3 times out of the year, right after 8 in the morning, then she's kicked out of the program. So what did that make me do? It made me get ready, go to work, right? And at that point, that's
From
what helped
dropping
me.
her off, you just kept it going.
Instead of going back home, I
Exactly.
went straight to the office. And lo and behold, that's what I tell my agents nowadays, get to work early and you start seeing more success. And 8 in the morning for 8 months, I went from like not having the money to start making $80,000 a year, 150, 200, 350, 400,000, averaging around that price because the discipline finally kicked in. And then when I saw the money, I wanted more of it. Now the competitiveness came out again. Back in that, what happened in high school. Now it's like, okay, I got this. Let's go.
So you opened your own brokerage.
Right. Opened my own brokerage in 2015.
2015. And now you also have a mortgage company.
I also have a mortgage company. I have an escrow company, a flipping company, a property management company. I mean, many things. I have over 85 agents and staff that work at our company. And a lot has happened since, you know, and I could have listened to the doubters. I could have listened to all the people that, you know, didn't believe in me. But one of the things that we have to understand that when we make a commitment, we have to follow through. That's the biggest thing that people don't understand is you make a commitment, follow through. Trust me, there's that light at the end of the tunnel, but we quit when it gets really difficult. And that's not the part where we quit. We got to continue to follow through and break through once you see it.
Speaking about difficult, you're sober how many years now?
It's going to be now, it's actually 6 years now.
You just went cold turkey?
Cold turkey. I mean, look, 2 years prior to that, I was taking breaks. And those 5-month breaks, 3-month breaks, I was seeing so much success and focus and clarity that I was like, wow, I want some of that. And when I went back to drinking during those 2 years, I went back to mediocrity. Correct. And the thing is with me is that I don't want to be in that mediocrity level. I feel like there's more to that. And for me, if I feel like there's more goals to be accomplished, in order to accomplish that, I needed to get this particular part out of my life. And every time I think about drinking again, which I rarely do, I think, am I really ready to ruin everything that I've been building? Because I feel that way.
Yeah.
And what's more important, see the smiles of my kids, my wife, and the success we're having, the traveling that we're doing, or going back to that mediocrity, having to drink, having to hear it from getting earful of my wife saying, why are you getting home late at night? And you're supposed to do this, you're not doing it. That's just something that I was tired of, and now I'm just loving it. I'm loving the new life that I have.
It's really inspiring to hear the story and to know that the tenacity and the consistency and the hard work and the strength that it's taken for you to, first of all, leave your job, then, have to work hard in the industry to just level up, to just get paid, and then kick ass, grow, expand, and always leveling up. And then the sobriety, I give it to you, that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not.
But I've known that many professionals have had to make that step in order to be where they want to be and maintain it and just continue growing. Edwin, you are an entrepreneur, un ejemplo. Shout out to you. Gracias por ser un ejemplo de la comunidad, salvadoreño.
Sí.
Thank you for being, like I said, a motivator to all of us in the industry, because you said having the happiness and the of your wife and your kids, but also the respect of your peers, right?
Correct.
Because you've been there, you've done it, started from the bottom, now you're here. Thank you, and I wish you so much success, and I'm so excited to see you be president next year.
Gracias, babe. Gracias.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.